Hi, and welcome to another Type with me. In today's video, I'm going to ask LLMs how to limit an array with 3 elements in TypeScript. Right, let's start with ChatGPT, the free version. So I'm going to ask him, and then you can see here that you got an answer, and that answer is that in TypeScript, you can limit in the length of an array to a specific number of elements using a combination of type annotations and conditional types. Here's an example of how you can create a type that represents an array with a maximum length of 3 elements, and the array can also be empty. All right, so I'm going to open here and then index.ts, and then you have here the array with max 3 elements, and then you have an empty array, 1 tuple, 2, 3, so on, and then you can say here a number, or you can also go for example, a string, right? And then you can change this to a string. So we can very easily copy the code that we already did before, or we can just say, is there an alternative? There an alternative way of doing this? Question mark. And then you see that we have an alternative way to do that. So we can very easily copy the code. And then of course, paste this alternative, which is also a very great alternative in my opinion. And then here you see if we have 4 elements, it's complaining, right? So next LLM is Google Bard. So I'm going to ask him, how do you limit an array in TypeScript with 3 elements? And then you see here that he is saying like using a tuple type, something that we already knew. So tuples are a special type of array with a fixed length and type of each element. To create a tuple type, you use square brackets and so on. So that's great. You can then use the string array type to declare an array variable, and TypeScript will prevent you from adding more than 3 elements to the array. For example, this one. Then you could use a helper function. So another way to limit an array to 3 elements is to use a helper function. This function can check the length of the array and remove any extra elements, for example. Then you can then use the limit array to 3 elements function to limit an array to 3 elements, for example, this one. And then you see here, use code with caution. If you go here, then you get some more info. Yes, Bard can help with coding and topics about coding, but Bard is still experimental and you are responsible for your use of code or coding explanations. So keep in mind that if you're using Bard, but I think also for the other LLMs, it's still experimental. You need to test your code out and you need to see if that answer that the LLM gives is the right answer for your needs. It's also good to check your question, your coding question, into multiple LLMs. So for example, here we have Google Bard. And then one of the other ones that I want to do is labs. Labs.perplexity.ai. So I can now go and ask the question. So here we are. That's great, because then here you see type limited array, and he's also saying you can limit an array in TypeScript with 3 elements by using a type guard in the array type. Here's an example. He is also using tuples here. In this example, we have limited array type with 3 elements of different types, number, string, and boolean. We can only assign types arrays of the same type to this limited array. You also can very easily copy it, and you can test this out within Visual Studio Code. So if we go to Visual Studio Code, you see that I have tested it out and that it just works, right? So the only strange thing is that I have here type number is not assigned to type limited array, but I don't see that he is giving that error. Sorry, error. So that's a little bit strange, but okay, can happen. Like I said, you always need to test out your code in Visual Studio Code when you are using an LLM, but it's in my opinion very interesting to learn and to test out new things. And if you really don't know how to do it, you have an extra companion that maybe can help you out through your coding adventures, right? Another thing that I made a video about is that you can indeed add a LLM in your Visual Studio Code. There is a kind of plugin or a plugin in Visual Studio Code. I think it was maybe it was this one, I don't know anymore. But I made a video about it, so you can check this out and see if that can help you further along the line. So I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.